Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel. Peter's reality TV recaps, taste, and opinions. Better known as, and that's my opinion with Peter Mon, me. And today we're going to talk about the newest episode of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which my husband and I watched last night. And then we watched the episode of Watch What Happens Live with guest Mary Cosby, which I thought would be maybe entertaining because I think that Mary is giving mean-spirited, very mean-spirited, mean girl, but funny shade on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City this season. But what I have realized is that it must be in the edit for Mary Cosby because she just came across as rude and mean on Watch What Happens Live. There really was no humor to it. And what I realized very quickly was, you know, often when you watch the Housewives and things like that, and then you see them on Watch What Happens Live or the reunion, what you realize is that kind of like who they present themselves to be on episodes of the show is not necessarily who they are in person. Mary Cosby is very much in person, if that interview displayed who she really is, as she is on the show. And that is just a not very nice, mean-spirited person. And in all honesty, I don't even really know what Mary Cosby is doing here. Like, I'm very confused. My husband, to be honest with you, like, there's only been one other housewife on any other franchise that he really could not stand, and that was Noelle on the Real Housewives of Orange County. He literally, like, she would come on the screen and he would walk out of the room and go get, like, a Coke or go to the bathroom or something like that. He could not stand her, right? Mary Cosby, other than Noelle, is the only housewife. I mean, there's been a lot of housewives that he doesn't really like. She's literally like, he's like, I cannot stand her. She is so mean. She is so nasty. And at first, I was kind of like, well, I think her shade is kind of funny, whatever. He's like, she's not shady. He's like, it's not funny as shade. He's like, she's a mean-spirited person. Like, she is not a nice person. And it's interesting because last night, it kind of switched for me, like seeing her on the episode and then seeing her on Watch What Happens Live to back that up back to back. It kind of switched for me. Before last night's episode and Watch What Happens Live, I kind of was like, well, I don't necessarily like Mary, but I think she makes for good TV. I think she's funny. I think that opinion's changed for me. I don't think she is a nice person. She doesn't present as a good person. You know, there's this guy that's working in this very busy restaurant for this, party that Lisa Barlow is having, and he doesn't put her pizza that she's taking home in a box, and she calls him lazy. Andy Cohen asks her about it because they do this whole thing called, you know, what's it called? Honor, or defend your crankiness. You know, they do the defend your honor, defend this, defend that, whatever. It's defend your crankiness. And he says to her something about why she said that. And she said, because he was rude. And I'm like, you literally have this man, okay, who is being filmed, working at this restaurant event venue, putting all these pizzas together. There's literally 10 people standing at the counter, okay? There's 100 people in this room. And Mary Cosby wants a box for a pizza because he said to her, I didn't put it in the box because I didn't want it to touch my hands. She calls him lazy to his face. And that's who she is. A good Christian minister, okay? Mary Cosby, who is a good Christian minister, but we don't talk about her church this season, right? Because that's probably in our contract. I will come back on the show if you do not talk about my church. Because the last time that we talked about my church and everybody got into my church business, okay, was when I didn't show up to the fucking reunion and when I didn't do season 3. Because my church was under so much scrutiny and people started looking at how I was making money at my church, how I was spending the money from my church, and people started like watching me closely. Can't have that, okay? Can't have anybody looking at the money of the church of Mary Cosby very closely, because if you do, then what you're going to find out is that she's probably making a lot of money to be able to afford constant Chanel couture outfits, purses. I mean, I've never in my life, now I've known a lot of like people that work in religious fields that make pretty good money, but I've never known anybody to, and I know that she's inherited a lot of her money from her grandmother and things like that, okay? But a lot of the money is all wrapped up in church money. Like, she's from the past, from her grandmother, from her and everything. I've never known anybody that has made that kind of money off of running a church. And so there was a lot of scrutiny about the church, right? And about Lisa Barlow's friend Cameron that eventually passed away, sadly. And there was a lot of conversations about him being involved in the church and whatever. That's why she didn't show up to the reunion. I just literally looked it up right here, okay? In this article, because I wanted to be reminded of myself. We're talking about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star Mary Cosby on why she skipped season 2 reunion taping. They told lies. And she said the whole story was one-sided, okay? Because of Lisa Barlow and her friendship with this guy that attended Mary Cosby's church. Now, here's my question about it, okay? My question is, it was kind of an unwritten rule, or unwritten rule by the producer after Adrian, I think it was Adrian, didn't show up to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion, that if you don't show up to a reunion, like, your time on the Housewives kind of ends. Like, Lisa Vanderpump, she had resigned from the show the day before the reunion, didn't show up to the reunion, you know? But, like, when you don't show up for a reunion, I think it's kind of like an unwritten rule, and everybody knows it. Like, your time with the show is done, that you didn't show up to the reunion. The reunion is part of your job, okay? So the fact that Mary Cosby didn't show up to the reunion, she didn't fulfill her job obligations, and they're having her on for season 4 as a friend, and she's a nasty friend, and she's causing a lot of drama. Then Andy Cohen asks her why she did come back, and she said to save the show, which a lot of people thought was like a really funny comment from her. But the reality is, other than Angie and Monica coming on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and stirring up a bunch of drama and things like that, there really isn't a whole lot going on this season because Jen Shah is now in prison. People aren't consumed in talking about her. You know, Whitney is on the other side of her journey that she's going through. There's not really a whole lot for them to talk about. So they have Mary at every little thing throwing shade at these women. But what they don't realize, I don't think, is that once you start watching it with kind of like a fine eye, you know, it's that Mary's shade at first is funny. Like when she says, like, who's Angie? Like, I thought that was so funny in Palm Springs. But when it's repetitive and it's over and over and over again, what you realize is Mary's just really not a nice person. Okay? And what's interesting to me about that is that this is kind of the hypocrisy of people that I've witnessed for years, okay? And I'm very supportive of my friends. I do not go to a church. I'm a believer that you don't have to be in a garage to be a car. You don't have to be a Christian to be in a church, okay? You don't have to be in a church to be a Christian. You don't have to be a spiritual person, okay? You don't have to go to church to be a spiritual person. You don't have to follow a certain doctrine to be a spiritual person. That's what I believe. I've been a member of a 12-step program for 28 years and 9 months. I'm a very, very spiritual person. But I don't follow any specific religious doctrine, and I don't go to any churches, okay? I don't have anything against them. My mother was a woman of very strong faith and went to a church till she died. I have a lot of friends on my own. I don't take away from that. But I also know a lot of hypocrites in the church, okay, that say that they're like really good people, they're really good Christians and things like that, and they lead with love and kindness, and I think that's what Christianity is supposed to be about, right? You lead with love and kindness, you're a minister of a church, you're running a church, and you talk mad shit about people constantly. Mary Cosby, I don't think the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is really for you, because I would not want to be a parishioner of your church if this is how you speak about other people, okay? Like, you are literally going against all the proponents of Christianity by who you are as a person and acting like you literally cannot be bothered and talking shit. It makes for funny TV sometimes, but as a minister of a church, I would not want to attend your church. You are not anybody that I would want as a role model for how to be a better human being, okay? In fact, you're somebody I would want to not sit next to at a dinner party other than to make me laugh, but I would be too afraid, because I am a chameleon with people, that I would feed right into that shadiness and gossip, okay? And I don't believe that shadiness, gossip, mean-spirited comments, and not leading with love is proponents of Christianity. But I could be wrong, okay? I could be completely wrong because, like I said, I don't go to church. But my question is, why is she even here? Is she here to save the show? Because Andy Cohen kind of laughed at that, right? It was so uncomfortable to watch her on Watch What Happens Live. To Andy and the other guest, she just was so rude and nasty. And it's like, you can tell that, like I had a friend of mine years and years ago, that like one by one, like all of her friends started dropping off. I remember we were sitting right here on my front patio, okay? And she said to me, she was like crying, she was upset. She's like, I don't understand why I can't keep friends. Like, you're literally the only friend. This is not anybody that I've ever talked about in a video before. No, this is not Tanya Jean. If you met Tanya Jean, you would absolutely love fucking Tanya Jean, okay? She's a heart of gold. So she and I were sitting here, and she said, I just don't understand why I keep on losing friendships. Like, I just cannot keep friendships. Like, you're literally the only friend that I've had all these years, right? And as much as I love this person, she comes across as kind of a nasty person. And it's like she's watched the movie Mean Girls too many times and wants to be Regina George. And I said to her, I said, I feel like along the way somewhere you thought it was cute to be a bitch, and then it just kind of stuck. I said, it's kind of funny from time to time to be a bitch when you walk in a room, like, you know, to kind of like throw some shade and whatever, but like nobody really wants to be best friends with a nasty person. They really don't. They don't want that person close to them. Well, when you're Mary Cosby and you're a nasty person towards everybody, and then what you're really also saying is, and I don't really want to be close to anybody, why are you on the show? You don't want to participate, okay? You don't want to go to any of the events. You act bothered to show up, okay? Can y'all not find somebody else in Salt Lake City that can fulfill the role of Mary Cosby? You gave Angie, after one season as a friend, okay, a spot. I mean, some of these women have been begging for years as friends to have spots on the show, okay? So after one season, you give Angie, okay, a spot when I couldn't stand her last season, okay? And I really can't stand her this season except for what happened last night on the episode I feel really bad for. But I don't think she's a nice person either, okay? And then Monica, who I think is an interesting character, I'm not really sure what I think of her yet. I think she's a shit stirrer, but I like her, okay? There's a redeemable quality to her. Hell, out of all of them, she's like Gina from the OC. She's more relatable. I mean, it's not like she has more money than God. I think she's more relatable, for me at least, than the rest of them, you know? So I wanted to talk about Mary Cosby because I don't really understand why she's on Salt Lake City. I just don't really think that she's that great of a person, and I don't know, like... For as much shit as Heather Gay gets for being a bad Mormon and writing that book, I feel like Heather Gay at least owns her shit and is accountable to some degree and tries to be a better person. And even when she's not and she's getting into fights with people, she don't act like it's not that, right? Like, I feel like Heather Gay is a better person for being a bad Mormon than Mary Cosby is for being a Christian minister. Like, I'm so confused by it, you know? And I think religion a little bit, although it was kind of like the foundation of this whole franchise, I feel like it's a lot. I feel like it's just, it comes seeds, and maybe it can't because it's Salt Lake City, I don't know, but I've known people from Salt Lake City that aren't hyper-religious in one way or the other, so I don't know why. So that was the first thing I want to talk about. The second thing I want to talk about, speaking of religion, is this whole idea that Heather Gay is questioning Whitney Rose about Lisa Barlow's son going on a mission, okay? And Whitney is, first of all, I just want to tell you, I really liked Whitney seasons 1 and 2. I cannot fucking stand her this season, okay? I am so done with Whitney Rose. I hope they do not bring her back for a 5th season. I think she is a shit stirrer. I think she is not a great person. I think she has so much personal shit going on in her life that it is just coming out in every aspect of her show and her interactions with these women. I just don't even understand really what's going on with her, and she is just a completely different person. She kind of very much feels to me like what you see on some of the other franchises, that when the kind of like, they used to say that Heather was like super like fame hungry and things like that. I think Lisa Barlow has changed a lot as far as like fame and money, and I feel like Whitney Rose has changed a lot too, you know? And so it's very interesting to me, like it feels like the fame has kind of gone through their heads a little bit. They don't seem like they did before. So, okay, Lisa Barlow's son, who's graduating from high school or graduated, is going on this mission trip, which is 2 years. He can't see her, she can't see him, right? For the Mormon church. And as a Mormon missionary. And so Lisa, who doesn't, she said she goes to church every Sunday, but she doesn't go to the certain temples because of how she dresses and certain belief systems of hers and drinking diet soda and drinking alcohol and things like that, right? Or some people wouldn't go because they drink too much alcohol and things like that. It's interesting to me because like what I know about Mormonism, which isn't a lot, but I had some friends that are, it's like, it seems like there are people that take it seriously, and then there's Lisa Barlow, who's like the watered-down version of Mormonism. Am I like getting this confused? I'm confused, because it seems to me like one of those religions where you're either all in or you're all out. Like, are there watered-down versions? Like, you can come to the church and give us your money, but you got to go to these different churches. You can't go to the fancy churches because you wear Balmain and whatever, you know. I was going to say Balenciaga, but I think that's been banned and canceled, right? But she still does. You know, and all this other stuff, like and $60,000 rings, and you drink your vodka that you own your brand, and you drink Diet Coke and eat fast food, and you wear fancy clothes. So you can't go to the good churches because you won't wear the undergarments. But we'll still take your money. You can still be part of the church, but you have to go to the watered-down version of it. I'm confused about this, okay? Because now she's coming out all over Twitter, and she's saying, my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law and all these people were missionaries and don't come for me. And, well, okay, girl, I don't care if all 15 members of your family were missionaries. Don't make you one. Doesn't make you a missionary. You know what I'm saying? Listen, it don't, okay? Every one of my family members could have walked on the moon. Don't make me a fucking astronaut. So I don't know what you're trying to prove with all that bullshit about how many family members of yours were on missions. Where were you on a mission, okay? Well, who was on a mission? Heather Gay. Heather Gay was a missionary for the Mormon Church. So I do, and honestly, like, if we're just going to keep it real and act like these women aren't like celebrity reality stars, these are conversations I would have with my friends, okay? I would have conversation if I were in that same situation with my friend Tanya, okay, about somebody else's kid going on a mission, especially if we both shared the same religious beliefs, and be like, is this surprising to you? Like, are you confused about it? I'm not saying that conversation will ever be filmed, okay, or get back to that person, but yeah, that's a conversation that we would have probably about the confusion about it. Heather Gay comes out and she says something to Whitney about it. Whitney, who has completely disowned the church, had to take legal action to get her name taken off the roster and all this kind of shit, went on and on and on about how men have these rights and women don't have these rights and all this kind of stuff, fought the Mormon Church for 2 seasons of the show. Now she's just like, oh, what? Hand me a mint julep and let my husband paint my ass while Lisa's son goes off on this missionary. I don't care. And Heather's like, okay, but you took such issue with the Mormon Church. Don't you take an issue with the fact that Lisa's son is going door to door selling the Mormon Church to people? Oh no, girl, I don't care. I'm just worried about my my brand. I'm just worried about my 2 brands that I got. Can't even be bothered to pick up my kids from school and take them to soccer. My husband's got to do that. Did you get that whole scene too? How dare my husband ask me to actually do some stuff around the house? I run 2 businesses. What businesses are those, girls? Again, online businesses that you have, okay? You going into the factory every day to box some things up yourself? I'm confused about all this. So anyway, that whole conversation, I have to tell you, I stood on Heather Gay's side all day long for that. The 2 of them have bonded, trauma bonded, which I hate that word, okay? I hate that whole thing, but they have over their experiences with the Mormon Church and as cousins. And yeah, they've had their fallings out and back then and stuff like that. And I watched the Ultimate Girls Trip too with both of them on there. But I think that is not an unfair conversation for Heather to bring up to Whitney when they both had their issues with the Mormon Church. I think it's so weird that Whitney acted like this was such a weird conversation that Heather had. Is this my Amazon deliveries? If it is, I'm going to have to stop this because we're going to get into the good stuff. Actually, I think this is a delivery, so let me stop this now, okay, before the delivery comes up here, so I'll be right back. It wasn't for me. I ordered all of these old school band t-shirts last night on Amazon, and I'm like all excited and stuff, and like he came out, he was so nice, and he was like looking around at all the mailboxes, and I go, who are you looking for? And he told me the address, and I go, no, that's not me. I said, what's the name on there? And he told me, and I was like, oh, that's 2 doors down. He was so nice. But anyway, I've been waiting for these band t-shirts that I ordered. Listen, I got me The Cure, New Order, what else did I get? The Smiths, Gene Loves Jezebel, the Jesus and Mary chain, speaking of religion. Anyway, okay, let's go on and talk about this whole Meredith thing that happened last night. The rumors. I can't do those. The rumors. My husband can do that so well. But anyway, so when they were in Palm Springs, okay, Meredith insinuated to Lisa Barlow that she, and this is kind of partly where I don't know what to think about Monica. Because she plays both sides of the fence. She insinuated to Lisa Barlow that if Angie was going to come for her, she could bring out what she knew about Angie K's husband, okay? And when that episode was over, and I even talked about it on here, I looked at my husband and I go, what do you think the rumor is? And he goes that he's gay. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, and here's kind of the thing, right? And I even said this last night. Her husband's good looking. He's built. He's a hairstylist, okay? And listen, I have known my fair share of hairstylists that are straight and that are married and have kids, and literally every single one of them is swarmed with rumors, okay, that they are gay. Always. I don't care if they are straight as an arrow. Do y'all remember, what was it, who was it that was it, I can't think of his name, not Richard Gere, but what was his name? Annette Bening's husband or ex-husband that dated Madonna. What was his name? Why can't I think of his name? That was in, that movie Shampoo, and all the women wanted to sleep with him. Do you remember that movie? Anyway, not Richard Gere. What was his name? Why can't I think? O'Neill? No. It doesn't matter. But, like, that's always the deal, right? Like, if you're a hairstylist, did I say hairdresser? We don't use hairdresser. We don't use that word anymore today. Did I say that? I don't think I said hairdresser. That reminds me of my grandma going to get her roller set once a week and her nails done. Blood red. And my grandma get a roller set once a week at the beauty shop on Mondays with her hairdresser. True story, she did. Of course, my grandma died when I was 13. But anyway, hairstylist. I actually just went to the hairstylist today and got my hair cut. What do you think? Well, I mean, it don't look so cute with this hat on, does it? But she did a nice job. I love her so much. So anyway, so that was kind of, we already knew that was going to kind of be the rumor, right? Okay. And so then apparently it comes out that, like, they start putting Monica on the spot because Monica won't shut her mouth about the rumors that Meredith's talking about. And apparently there was some conversation that occurred at the airport where Meredith said something about Angie K's husband, boyfriend, is running all over Salt Lake City, and he's telling everybody that he's sleeping with Angie's husband. Okay, now, they never aired that conversation, so I don't know. There's a lot of conversations on Salt Lake City that they're referencing, but you never see witness to, right? So I'm like, did these conversations really occur, or whatever? So then so Whitney thinks it's a good idea to let Angie know this, because of course Whitney, you know, is the deliverer of all evil and needs to let Angie K know that there are people out there that are... What kills me about this is that Angie is like... Well, first of all, Angie acts like she's never heard this rumor before and that nobody would ever say that about her husband. You own 10 hair salons and a hair school. And you live in Salt Lake City, probably one of the most conservative cities in the United States. Are you telling me nobody has ever said that your husband was gay before? Seriously, girl? Seriously? Seriously. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, okay? My ex used to work for a very reputable hair salon here in Indianapolis as a hairstylist. And the owner and his wife, okay, were obviously a heterosexual couple. The rumor was rampant about him. And he's with another woman today. So don't even get me started on the fact that Angie K acts like she has never heard this rumor before. Then she turns around later in the episode and says, oh, well, of course, he's a hairstylist. You hear this a lot. But she goes off on Meredith when Monica is sitting there going, everybody's heard this rumor. And then later Monica comes out and says, everybody's talking about it. All these women are talking about it. All these women have opinions about it. I think that's from next week's show. She shows that all the women have opinions about it. All these women have talked about it. They've all heard about it. At one point, they even look at Heather. She looks at Heather and says, haven't you heard it? And Heather's like, oh, yeah. And Lisa's like, I've never heard it. And Heather's like, yes, you have, Lisa. You've had to have heard this rumor before, right? But so then they turn it all on Meredith, okay? And it's Meredith turning out this rumor, all right, that Meredith is telling people that that Angie K's husband is gay and that he's sleeping with other men, okay? Now Meredith, who has had her own issues with people speculating about her son Brooke's sexuality, which apparently that whole situation, which was kept under wraps, is now not a situation anymore, because in this episode, Brooks and his mom are talking in the car, and he says something about his past relationship, and she refers to his ex-boyfriend. So apparently that's out. She's okay to talk about. I don't know. She's getting GLAAD awards for the gay and lesbian, you know, all that. She's getting presented with all these GLAAD awards. I did not realize that Meredith Marks was such a huge advocate for LGBTQIA plus rights. I've seen that. I've seen that on her Instagram and stuff like that, but I didn't know, like, I don't know what work she's done. I don't know what activism she's done. I don't know what marches she's walked in. I don't know what she's done, but I do know that she came really hard for Jen Shaw for talking about Brooks. So, you guys, I'm still sick, sorry. So if that's the case, and she is spreading that rumor, and she is such an activist, or such a what's the word I'm looking for? Well, activist, if she's such a supporter of the LGBTQIA plus community and an ally, why the fuck are you repeating those rumors? Those are disgusting rumors, okay? Not to mention that if that were true, you are taking away somebody else's coming out experience. Not to mention you're hurting a family. You're hurting a daughter that's going to hear those rumors, true or not. And I actually kind of loved Angie K's husband's response to it. He said, you know, it's not about whether it's gay or straight. It's about the fact that they're insinuating infidelity. I loved that response. I thought that was such a mature response. Now, let's hope it doesn't bite him in the ass, and 2 years down the road it comes out that there was something true to these allegations, and people will say, well, it's really not about you being gay, okay? It's about the fact that you cheated on your wife. So, because, I mean, it came out of his own mouth. I hope that doesn't happen. I felt really bad for Angie and for her husband, I think his name is Sean, and for their daughter, because when they started talking about, he said, I'm afraid that my daughter's going to hear, she said it too, that their daughter's going to hear these rumors. She's, I think, 12, and that she's not going to know what to do with that. Like, that immediately took me back, and I've talked about this in my vlog, so I'll talk about it over here. That immediately took me back. Is this now a delivery? Hey, how are you? just a walker in my neighborhood, love him. But it took me back to when my parents got divorced, you know, and I was like in 5th or 6th grade, and my mom was going out and partying with her friends and things like that. My mom was a great mother, but there were times, you know, my mother was a recovering alcoholic, or was a recovering alcoholic before she died. She died sober. She got sober 6 months after I did. But, I mean, we had an amazing relationship as well as that. But she would go out with her girlfriends, you know, once every 2 to 3 weeks or whatever, and people at school would talk, and they'd say, like, oh, my dad was, like, met up with your mom, and we heard them talk, and it was embarrassing to me. So I totally understand. That's on a huge other level. I totally understand why they wouldn't want their daughter talking about it or hearing about it. I think what will come out is that it's not Meredith, because she said to Angie K confronted her, and she said, I never spread that rumor. Well, okay, Meredith, but it was kind of bad enough that you said that you could spread the rumor. If that's the rumor that you're talking about, and you're an advocate for gay rights, and you're talking about your son's boyfriend, and you're getting GLAAD awards, the fact that you would even insinuate that you could weaponize rumors like that against somebody is really disgusting. Which was at the point that I was kind of like, if everybody's talking about this, why are they trying to take away from this moment of Meredith, or is somebody trying to really paint a picture that she's a phony and that she's really not a gay advocate? I will tell you, for me, as a person that has a lived experience as an out gay man for over 30 years, I came out on my 18th birthday, the conversation between her and Brooks in the car about his ex was uncomfortable to watch. It is very obvious to me, however he identifies, and I'm not sure how he identifies as bisexual, pansexual, gay. I don't know how he identifies. But it was a very sexual conversation between the both of them once they got out of the car. He talked about being flexible and things like that. That was not the part of the conversation that made me uncomfortable. The part that made me uncomfortable was her talking around certain words. Not being able to say words like sexuality, things like that, calling them choices, things like that. It was a very uncomfortable conversation, you could tell. And I'm a believer that everybody has their own coming out story, even parents. Like parents of their kids that come out, like they have to go through their own coming out process too. So it's obvious to me that maybe she's not there yet. Now, that would be an interesting story to share instead of acting like your mother of the year, okay? I think it's great and fantastic that you're supportive of your child, but if you're still in your mind thinking that it's okay to weaponize that against somebody as a rumor, maybe you need to reevaluate your stance on certain things, okay? Because I think that that's kind of a hurtful thing to do. Now, Angie K wanted to turn around and she wanted to say to her husband that she stood up for their family and she did the right thing. Well, you did, Angie, but the way that you did that was by turning the tables on Meredith and saying that she spreads her legs for every man outside of her marriage, okay? So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, all right? You have said just as many nasty things. We've probably said more nasty things about Meredith than she's ever said about you on camera, okay? But the fact is that if she's one of 50 people talking about this rumor, or 100 or 20 or 3, okay? But you turn around in a large event, a venue, okay, and you're shouting at the top of your lungs that she's opening her legs. No, I wouldn't have a conversation with you either. Because Meredith walks away and she says, I'm not going to be disrespected. Well, I wouldn't be talked to that way either. You know? But Meredith probably needs to own up to it and have a conversation with her and say, yeah, I did say that. And I was drunk in Palm Springs and that doesn't make it right. And I should never have insinuated in a million years that I would have weaponized those rumors against you. That's not okay. And I do agree that all these women are like, well, Meredith gets involved in everybody's marriage, but then you can never talk about Meredith. It's very much Shannon Bedore from Orange County, right? That Shannon can talk about everybody else, but nobody can talk about Shannon's relationship. You know, Meredith can talk about everybody's family, their relationships, their intimacy, all that kind of stuff, their kids. But God forbid you ever talk about anything to do with Meredith, right? So anyway, that was what I thought of the episode last night. Still don't understand why Mary Cosby is around. Confused. She was good for a couple laughs at the beginning of the season. Now I think she's overstayed her welcome and it's time for her to go. We already know she probably won't show up to the reunion. I mean, it's not like she's getting herself... This is the thing. She's no longer the story. She's commenting on people's stories. So they think that she's good enough to comment on other people's stories and throw shade, right? As long as she's not in the story. Put her in the limelight again. Put her in the spotlight again, where she's getting a lot of spotlight, okay? We're talking about it. Andy Cohen asked her and Watch What Happens Live how her church is doing. She was like... we're not talking about my church. That was the moment that I knew that there was something written into her contract that they are not talking about the church on this season of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Because when he asked her, she acted so stunned, she could not fucking believe that he actually asked her about the church. She was like, what? What are you? No, church is fine. The church is good. We don't need to go there. So anyway, let me know what you thought in the comment section below. I love you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.